All right. Got a bunch of new users on tonight. Let me acknowledge Bob down there at AJ5C. He's down in Harrison area. It's good to see you. Reached out to us and he's wanting to jump in on advancing his Winlink skills. I see Chris on there also and Jim. And then, of course, we got several that have been watching the replay. I've been getting a lot of Zoom messages and, uh, people are sending emails throughout the week as they're training. Dave up in Rogersville acknowledged that he's going to be out tonight, and so it's kind of cool to see this thing growing. And so tonight we want to get into a little bit more. We've been getting a little more advanced on each session with Winlink. Our first session was basically, downloading Zoom. You had to download Zoom, downloading Winlink, and then I didn't really jump into setting up uh, Winlink to different radios. I purposely did that because that would almost be like a week's worth of training there. But the good thing is, and if there is anybody that they're trying to set up a particular radio or something like that for WinLink, HF or VHF, UHF, reach out to me. Let me know. We're happy to help. Uh, the good news is, especially like with HF, once you set that up using either a signal link or a digi-rig or some of the radios themselves now, basically, uh, like like the 991, the 7300, a lot of those have the USB connection right in the back. Certainly made it a lot easier to get it started on digital modes on HF even. Hopefully, we'll see some of the VHF, UHF manufacturers get on board with doing some Bluetooth and stuff like that. That UV Pro, I think I left it upstairs, but the B-Tech has Bluetooth, so I can literally Bluetooth either my cell phone to it or my tablet and do WinLink packet. I do have a UHF, Bob. I do have a UHF access point here at my house. I'm up on Bee Creek Road, so I've got a pretty good elevation. It's on 441050. And if you ever go looking through the WinLink database, it's listed there. So if you want to try some UHF, the reason I didn't put it on VHF is I do have an APRS digi here also. So if I could only figure out a way to not, null that or notch it and have both of them, it'd work out good. But so the first session was more or less, downloading WinLink, configuring it, how to get it set up. And then each video, we kind of got a little different layers. Last week, we were doing some of the mapping capabilities, and I encourage everybody to watch that one. And we've even used how to check in with WinLink, how to do nets and stuff like that. And tonight, we're going to get into ICS 213. So we're going to pass a little traffic tonight, get a little more advanced. A lot of this training that we're doing is in preparations. We have a selfish motive here. We are going to be using WinLink with our emergency training net that we're going to do with exercise with Cox Hospital. I think they're calling it Polar Bear 2025. They had mentioned that they wanted to do WinLink, so we kind of reached out with the club here, and we thought it'd be kind of cool if our club was a little more ahead of the ball game, and maybe even the other members could start helping some of the other region as we get into that. So let's switch on over to the computer, and we'll get started here. So we're assuming everybody has WinLink downloaded, and we've been doing most of our nets on Telnet for right now. So like if I want to open my session, I'm going to just check my emails here real quick. I'm opening session Telnet, and I'm going to hit start. And just going through, doesn't look like I have any new messages. So one thing I wanted to do, I'm going to throw a couple freebies in here tonight. So I'm going to go to, let me just find out where it's at here real quick. So under settings, I'm going to go to form settings. Settings, form settings. If I'm going to be sending this 213, ICS 213 to somebody that's not on WinLink, when they get it, it's going to look really funny. It's not going to be formatted. Um, but if I'm sending it to another Winlink operator, it's going to look properly. And let me just show you that real quick, for example. So when I want to create a new message, I'm going to hit message, new message, and I'm going to go select template. And anytime you open Winlink and it asks you to update the forms, always do that. Yeah, most anytime it asks to update the firmware, the software forms, always run that. And so what I'm going to do is go to the ICS forms, USA forms, and we're just going to select 213 here. So when I click that, that's going to populate this window. But now when I'm just going to do just something here, just kind of make up some stuff. Let me click around and we'll just kind of throw in some random stuff here. So when I hit submit, I want to show you what that, of course, it's going to want the date. So by clicking in there, it's going to auto populate. And so when I go to submit, let's see if it's happy with that. Nope, still wants approved by. So we'll just put some random tapping here. There we go. Let's try that. It's going to give me the warning that we're going to close the browser. So if I'm sending this to another net control or let's say I'm sending it to one of you guys on our net and you're a WinLink user, this is what it looks like. This is how it populates. And let me just put maybe I'm gonna send it to NY0J, NY0J, and so I'm gonna post to Outbox. But now that's what the message looks like. It's just, it doesn't look like a 213. It says it is, but that's not. If I'm sending this to SEMA or FEMA or Cox Hospital, they're used to that ICS 213. So there is an option. Well, let me clarify why. The reason I'm sending it like this is it uses less data as opposed to the full PDF. But if we are sending it, and if you're sending it over HF, you want to have a good quick connection, and you want to try to send it as quick as possible. But now there is an option, again, that's under setting and form settings, and I'm just going to select this send forms as PDF files to internet addresses, and you can kind of read through this little information here. And so I'm going to select that and hit save. So now if I do this, let's try seeing if it'll let me edit this. Yeah, it's not going to let me. So let's create a new one. And I'm just going to really do kind of the same thing. But this time I'm just going to put an email address. That way it sees that it's an outside. And let's select the same form. ICS 213. And let's click exercise. We'll do the same thing, just some random stuff here. I'm trying to get the same amount roughly, just so we can see the size in comparison of the how large a file is sent. So we'll do it again here, just something like that. All right. And I'm going to hit submit. Yes, we understand that. So we're going to close that. And I'm just going to post this to the outbox. So now that it's posted, you can see it's taking a little bit longer actually. So I'm on the outbox now. And if we look here, you can see one is right here. And look at the size difference. So 34,914 versus 1,700. So when we do this, we want to do it purposefully. We only want to do that if we for sure know that that's our only option or they're an outside address. But let's say you're at one of you are at Cox Springfield, one's at Cox Branson, and we're just sending it to each other. Well, when you receive this message down here, even though it's not a PDF, when we automatically receive an ICS form, it's going to open up in that PDF and then we can print it that way. So it's a nice little workaround that Winlink's created to, yes, this doesn't look like an ICS, but, and then when we come up here to this one, it's going to have a PDF attached to it right here. So it's going to look like that. So a little bit different, but that's something that they could print out and use it that way. So as a mock-up, what I also want to show you, and I'm just going to delete these. There's no need to send those. So if, again, that's under settings and form settings, and it's right down here at the bottom. Send forms as PDF files to internet addresses. So if they're, and this would be something we would do, in a situation like we're doing, but because it is a larger file, you're going to want to make sure you have a good RF connection. If you're using HF, you want to make sure that's at least a good VARA connection, probably. I don't see it being an issue on VHF or UHF if we're doing packet with it. But if it is over HF, you're going to want to make sure you have a really good connection to send those.
Hey, Clayton,
Yes, sir.
will you show that window again with the ones where you got the form settings? You clicked it off too quick for me.
Sure. How to turn that on? Or,
Yeah,
yep.
just I want to see what you've got checked on yours.
So I'm under settings
I got that. I just need to know
and
what the
then
box is.
form settings. It's the very bottom one.
Okay. All right, got it.
And
Thank you.
yeah, and it doesn't hurt to read that. And let's just do it for the internet's sake. If you enable this option, messages with form attachments sent to internet addresses like John at xyz.com have the form information converted to a PDF file. Messages sent to Winlink users, call signs directly continue to have the form data sent in condensed XML, which where it is merged with the display form of the receiving end. And it's got a warning: forms sent as PDF files are much larger than the condensed files. Often messages with PDF forms are 50 kilobytes or larger. They are not suitable for slow radio connections. So, but in an emergency, if you're having to handle that traffic to somebody else that is outside of WinLink, you'll want to turn that on. Just have that understanding that it is going to be a little bit slower. Now, something I want to show you is in this scenario, let's say we have I kind of play these out in my head, and those of you that's been in incidences before can come up with some other ideas, and that's why I like this Zoom mode and get feedback from you guys. But in my head, I almost picture like the incidences I've been on, like one with the Red Cross for the flooding in Cassville. You had your radio position. Your incident commander was somewhere else in the room, or if you're in a tent, could be in a tent, something like that. But the incident commander was somewhere else. So basically, when they had traffic that needed to be passed, let's say back to Springfield, or if we're doing our scenario with Cox Branson to Cox, Springfield, Cox South, or something like that, to their commander up there. Uh, you would have an incident commander or somebody bring you traffic that needed to be relayed up there. So if I'm talking, and let's say Mr. Parks is up at Cox Branson, I'm up at Springfield, or somebody else is up at Springfield, or Bill Brashears is up there, I'm going to send that I'm going to send that message to him through his WinLink. So I already know that I'm sending it to another WinLink operator, or if I'm sending it through email through to the WinLink and it's going to another ham, as long as I know they have WinLink Express. Now, is it beneficial to have, say, somebody that's a non-ham have WinLink Express? Well, not really, because they would have to have a call sign to register to get it to even open up, so to display it. So that's when we for sure would want to switch over and use that PDF function. If we're sending it to anybody outside of, let's just say it's a non-ham. If we're sending it to a non-ham, that's going to be the option we want to select. Let's jump in a little bit more, and I want to show you another feature. But let's say now we're at the operating center, and I maybe want the incident commander is going to be filling out a lot of these forms. Well, we could do something like a sneaker net, and I I hope I sent everybody. I've been working on my group messaging a little bit. I'm just curious if anybody got the messages I sent earlier through Dropbox. Was anybody able to download that?
Clayton, I did, and it came in as a note file. Is that what it was supposed to come into as?
Yeah, a text.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
double
I
check.
got it as a text file, long text file with line numbers.
Okay.
I assume you have to read in between all of the data information to figure out what it
Yeah.
is.
So that's a nice looking. I see. Yeah, you can see it on the right side. It's kind of what you're looking at is basically something like that. So when you download that, and let me just clear my throat real quick. When you download that, uh, in Bob, did you need a copy of that, or do you have access to it? Your mic's muted, but give me either a thumbs up or down if you're good to go. Or there you
No,
are.
I don't have that one.
Okay, did I send you a link to it? Let's see. I don't think I did. So
No,
let me share. Are you on Winlink? Do you have a Winlink address?
it's on right now. Yeah, my call's
Okay,
on.
let me send it to you that way if that's all right. So let me share. Not share. Let me see if there had a nice way to get that. There it is.
Well, I got something here. Let's see what it is.
Yeah, I was thinking I sent it to you maybe, but I
No,
can't remember.
I got one from Jim.
Okay, let me send you one here, and that is J5C. Um, and you'll just want this for even after the net, you can play around with it. So send a telnet, start. Here you go, sir. You should have it now. No worries, Dave. Thanks for your tips. Go. And this is what that ICS looks like when you open it up there. So basically, he sent a ICS 213, and I received it electronically. And since I'm on WinLink, it auto opens up your web browser and fills that out. So thanks for that check in, Chris. So get my head around where we were going with that. So
I got it, Clay.
all right, perfect, perfect.
Back to your text
Yep.
note text message.
So when you let's go to message. My GoPro here's acting weird, so I'm just gonna new message. I'm gonna select my template. I'm gonna go down to that 213. Now I'm trying to think if I actually have that text you guys have. So when you're here, you could take that form, that text file, and you can load it right here. So even though it looks weird on here, or as you downloaded it as a text, I'm just trying to remember where I saved it. Oh, let me go back. So you want to save that to, like, say, your desktop, and then you're just going to use this load ICS 213 initial data. So there it is. I did have it there. So I'm going to load that file, and you can see it populates that 213 for you. Now, you may ask, what's the purpose of that? So the idea is if you come up here to a brand new 213, let me refresh. I can actually, without, I can copy this file, this 213, and let me show you where it is. It's when you open up a file explorer. So the idea with this, and I kind of made that in my Dropbox. Sorry, I'm bouncing all around here. I think my sugar's kicking in. There's this form called ICS 213 initial. I did put it in that Dropbox, but I kind of want to show you guys how to get to it. Uh, it's under your file explorer. And I think the idea with this would be when you go to an incident, maybe we have pre-made USB drives, or you carry, I think we should always carry a couple spare USB drives. That what we could do is actually, instead of having your commander, setting their incident commander sitting right next to the radio operator, if he's over here and he's just needing to fill these forms out, you could actually load that blank form on his computer. He doesn't have a radio or anything like that, but he can just start creating those forms and save that to every time he creates it, he could save it to the thumb drive. Then he brings that thumb drive over. Somebody brings it to you. Maybe you have two of them, and he's like, "Here, just send these." But you'll have who it needs to go to, assuming it's all going to that point to point location. But if there are email addresses and stuff like that, he could go through there, fill that out himself, and then hand that off to you as the radio operator, and then you're sending that out to them. Uh, it's something that some of the bigger command systems use, especially I've seen it out in California a lot. They were teaching this pretty heavily out there. Um, we may not be in that position in some of our smaller incidences, but if it was something larger, you could almost see where you could have this file, the HTML that I'm going to show you, on a server or something locally in the command center, and then people could have access and then let them fill that form out instead of you're filling it out. They just hand it off to you over USB. You're pulling it into your computer and you're just sending it out. So that's kind of the scenario. Um, and let me just go to my shortcut here. So usually it lives under the C drive and RMS Express, wherever that default install. And then under your RMS Express, you have standard templates. And then underneath that is ICS USA forms. So I'm going to let that live open for just a minute so you could see that. So again, it's usually under the root. The default where RMS puts it is C drive, RMS Express, standard templates, and then we're under the ICS USA forms. And then you're just going to scroll down and you're going to see this one called Initial Viewer, ICS 213 Initial Viewer. Now, what you could do, and this may be something I'd like to work closer with, like, say, Chris and you guys all of you guys that's on here tonight, looking at the list, have been, are real familiar with the ICS forms and stuff. So I would like to go through and just say, let's pick all the ones that we would more likely see us passing traffic on. And we put that. I started putting them in Dropbox, but then I was like, there's a lot of them, so I'll just do the 213 for now. But we could go put all that on that thumb drive or have a central location. Obviously, you don't want it on Dropbox. We could use Dropbox just to transfer like we're doing, but if the network's down or something, you're going to want to have this on the old sneakernet. So we just have that thumb drive living. So when you give this, let's say you just copy this over. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to hit copy, and I'm just going somewhere that's I don't have that. And I'm going to pretend this is a thumb drive, but I don't have one in here. So when I double click that, now that guy's going to come in here and say, okay, he's going to fill this form out and then and go from there. Now, all he has to do, the difference is, actually, I clicked the wrong one. I'm going to do that again. The difference is when he downloads that, or when he clicks on that, it's not going to have the submit button. They're going to have directions to save that. You see how it doesn't have the submit, it just has save. So they're going to come through here. This is an exercise. They're going to fill that out just like they would normally. Or this is where, you know, that incident commander could have this form here and he hits load and he could load your file, that TXT file that you could generate. So when you fill this out and you hit save, that's where it's going to create. Now, I do recommend like maybe putting a, your call sign here or something like that in front of it. But basically, that's how I created that text file that you guys downloaded. I came through here, I kind of did a mock up, selected it. And again, the whole purpose of this would be if an incident commander or somebody else, maybe his assistant or somebody like that, they're going to fill the ICS 213 out and just hand it off to you. I'm assuming that would be in a bigger event in more of a bulk type setting. Otherwise, we as operators are going to be filling that out, in Winlink with that person next to us and us just trying to type basically what they said. So this is just one alternative. Um, I'd like to hear what you guys think. Do you see that being a real life situation? My imagination would be if it's a bigger event and it's a multiple person in their staff, and you just have the one radio op, and you're just passing those messages off. So,
Clayton, what well, in the event that they use their own ICS form digitally that is not this format,
mhm.
I guess they would just save it, and then you can, when you go back to your WinLink and you send an email, you can just do it as an attachment. Then, correct?
Yeah, yeah. The only problem with that is that's going to be a large, really large. You'd have to scan it in somehow if it's paper. Really, if it's anything different than what we've seen so far, it's almost going to be too large for to go over the WinLink network. So at that point in time, if it's anything different than the two that we've looked at, and knowing that most PDFs that are based this way, that was created in the WinLink system, the is 50, 50 bytes or 50 kilobytes at the max. So um, if it's something like another PDF, it's probably going to have a lot of metadata in that, and so it's probably going to be too large to even go across the WinLink. And I think 180 or something like that kilobytes is the max it'll let you do. But
But most of these forms are pretty much set up standard, just like this one
okay.
in the ICS world, right?
Mhm.
So, can you pull the text out of it and transfer it to this form?
I think you're back to just manually typing it.
Okay.
And the reason being is it's how they wrote the HTML coding for this particular forms, and that's why the WinLink crew did it this way. So in that instance, it'd almost be recommended that they would use, the incident commander or whoever would use that particular HTML to generate that form. And then that file is just a text, and it's only, what was that, like 40 some kilobytes or something like that, just super super small. And but that's the idea, is that it's going over RF, and a very good possibility. So like that one's 64 kilobytes just with that PDF. But let's say the text itself, is like 1.66 kilobytes. So, and when you're going over something that's slower than 300 baud on the radio, uh, that's kind of the reason why they've done it that way, is to more or less go in there, agitate, I think is the word, or aggregate the text out of there, and then have it repopulate in that form after it's sent over RF. So I think that's something that, if it's a valuable tool, like I said, a lot of this I'll study what other people are doing, especially like out west, where this is heavily used, and I'll watch what they're doing. I'll kind of study what they're doing, and then I try to see if that fits in our goals around here. I really think if it was a bigger situation, like a bigger event, this may come in handy there.
I
Now,
agree. I think around here in our area, we're gonna have smaller events,
mhm,
or they're probably gonna bring in some more expert people if that's needed. But for us locally, smaller events, and I think it's probably going to be more manually typed in,
mhm.
which I would foresee for kind of initial communications, um, to help them until we get ourselves better set up, or they get some other people coming in to assist us with that. So now, can you take whatever message is in this, and let's say we needed to put it into a text to send it because it's too large of a file? Can you just pull the text out of it?
Yeah, that's what it's doing automatically. So like if I'm sending this, let's say I'm sending this over RF to you. Now I just went to Winlink, I said new message, and I selected the template of ICS 213. So it auto starts this one. So I'm going to come in here, fill that incident out. And I have two options. I can either submit it, and by submitting down here, that's actually sending it back into WinLink to go over RF. But let's say I needed to actually send this to somebody over non-WinLink, then I'm going to actually select this save the data. So when you hit this save here, that's only saving, it's not sending, saving the HTML formatting that says, okay, line 7 is this or that. Yeah, and that's how I think I deleted them. Yeah, maybe. Let's see, do I have one in sent? So that it's basically going to show up looking something like that, versus, yeah, I deleted it. Let's see, do I have one over here? This is similar. This is a different form, but so you're only going to see the data like this versus the formatting, the HTML coding, which is how they built that. So if you're sending it to radio, you're just going to fill this out. If you receive just the text only, kind of like I sent you that TXT that you guys downloaded, you would load it here with this load ICS 213 initial data. So I'm going to come in here, pick that file. It's going to populate it. I can hit reset here. I can fill out something and I can submit it. So let's just do that. Let's say I just got one from SneakerNet, which is kind of what this file is. They filled it out and I hit submit. And it's going to tell me, all right, to complete this, click OK, close the browser. You will now return back to basically WinLink, is kind of what that's saying. So now as I'm here, I can actually, submit this to whoever um, and last week we were talking about the group addresses. So maybe you would have a preformed, group that you would like to send this out. And now I can post that. And I'm just going to go ahead and add your call in there, Bob. I think I will add that to that group. So, it's post to outbox. It's this again. Get out of here. Go back to here. So that's in the outbox. And now it's a really small file because it's only sending text. And then I can hit open telnet. This would normally be RF in that situation. Send, and it's done. And so there's one I just received from Jim as a WinLink check-in. So it auto populates. Now, this page by itself is actually, fairly large, especially when you're doing HTML coding, you're doing the different colors, the text box. But because really all he sent was the text, it's a really small file and it doesn't take that long to go over the radio. So the beauty of these forms is the forms are actually they live on your computer, in that the C drive, RMS Express standard template. So all it's, and you can see here the file size. So let's say like the 213, and there's actually two of them, the initial viewer and that. So see, that one's 65 kilobytes just by itself. Just the formatting. So that's, I mean, in our modern age, that's not a lot of data. But when you're talking real slow, well, even on UHF, we're doing 1200 baud. So that's back to like when you and I first probably did dial-ups. But and that's the purpose, is to expedite the delivery of that text. But as long as we're sending peer to peer, like and I don't want to use the term peer to peer because Winlink does have peer to peer. Peer to peer means that you're, instead of connecting to Telnet, you're connecting to them directly. But if I'm sending radio to radio operator, uh, just sending just the text only, letting the software auto populate that. But if there's ever an event where you need to have somebody populating that doesn't have Winlink, then maybe copy that file over on a thumb drive, or I would say already have it. I just, in your go bag or for your emergency kit, have a couple thumb drives with those already loaded on those forms. And then all you got to do is just use a thumb drive to, once you receive a few, copy them over, take it over. You, they may not want to be dealing with learning how to, I mean, it's just as simple as double clicking that, or, open that, double clicking that file, yeah, let's go back there to that real quick. The viewer one. And then, so this, they would open that, double click that off of their thumb drive, and then hit load data. So this could almost live, open all the time in the background. And then when they have new data, they just hit load, and then they browse to that thumb drive and just select that data and open it. Now from here, they could, if you have a printer, if that incident commander has a printer, they could print this and it would print just like that with the actual form. So that's using the pretty much the pre-made forms, sending them like that. And there is another little shortcut I want to show. Close all this. So under, let's say your event is done, and you just worked an event, you can actually come down here to generate form 309. So if you're ever asked by the incident commander or after action committee, hey, can you generate me a form 309? You just select that. So again, let me just show you that. That is under messages, generate form 309, communication log. And you come in here and set specifics. You could, I could create a personal folder and just say, for that exercise, so I could disable all these others. And let me just go ahead and include all that. I was kind of curious to see how large that becomes. So then I do have the other, so you could create the folder. We showed personal folders on the second video, I believe. So we could do this one as well. And then I'm not even going to set a time, but you could set a date range for that event. This is your task ID, your task name. So if we just say exercise, Branson, airplane crash, something like that, you could fill out the, all that. You must be PDF would be written. Okay, yeah, output file. Let's just put it. We'll do it there. Documents, generate 309. And so now let's go to documents 309. If I recall correctly, that was a Beach Boys song. So now you can actually see the traffic and that was generated through your station in and out. You can, of course, you can configure it to different different folders if you wanted to. So if you're still using your Winlink during the event. You're still sending personal or anything like that, but you can see here all the people that was sent to, files for tonight. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and add Bob's name to that. So that is under generate 309 under messages right there. And I was just looking here. So the group addresses is where we created the groups. And yeah, I've got you in there, Bob. There it is, AJ5C. So with that, I'll just check. Is there any questions from anybody that's online here now? Hopefully I didn't muddy the waters too bad. Yeah.
I just sent you a check-in,
Sounds good. Sounds good.
maybe.
It may take a second. I'll keep checking it here.